This is the LZR Project, an episodic story series by David and Alderman. The LZR Project takes place within David's Expired Reality universe and serves as a prequel to the main novels in his Expired Reality series. You can find out more about David's Expired Reality series at davidandalderman.com. Episode number 21, Wednesday, May 6th, 1998. Veronica Amaru leaned in the doorway of David's office to watch him sleep on the little couch against the wall. The blinds were drawn over his office window to keep the bright sunlight from invading his quiet sanctuary. She found it remarkable that she could stare at him for this long without getting bored. After her duel with excess and her murder of a half-dozen innocent girls, she wanted nothing more than to get back here and see David. Secretly, she wanted nothing more than to hide in his embrace, have his gentle hands wipe the tears from her soul, but she knew that could never happen. David was destined to be with Carrie Green. It was as simple as that. He stirred, mumbling indecipherable things under his breath. Veronica felt sorry for him and the burden he constantly carried. She wasn't privy yet to all the details of what happened at the Rusted Spigot the night before, but she did know that a police officer had been shot in the head by one of Mr. Big's lackeys, and David was there when it happened. Veronica turned out of the room and closed the door just as Roger Belmont stormed down the hallway toward her with Ridley Grant in his wake. Great. Veronica put her hands up to stop Roger from entering David's office. He's sleeping. Roger's eyes bulged from his fat face. I received a call late last night. On the other end is the city coroner telling me that Officer Stanton was shot in the head and that David Corbin was involved, as was that damn costumed vigilante calling herself Persimmon. Now I have the police chief, the mayor, and most of Lysalis's police force breathing down my neck, determined to find out why the leader of the LZR Project was involved in the death of a police officer. Now, Miss Amaru, do you really think I give a shit that he's sleeping? Veronica leaned against the door to David's office. He's resting, Roger. Resting from carrying your weight in this whole project. Roger pointed his finger at her face, muttering incoherently for a moment before his words finally came out in a discernible form. You give me lip again, and I'll shut this whole project down. Veronica put her hands on her hips. I dare you. You little piece of... Roger? He turned toward Ridley. What? Calm down. You can't talk to her like that. If she says David needs rest, then let him rest. You can interrogate him when he wakes up. Roger's face flushed. He closed his eyes and took a few deep breaths before the red subsided. When he opened his eyes, he had a smile on his face. Fine. David is placed on suspension until further notice. You can't do that, Veronica said. You can't suspend David, Ridley added. He didn't do anything wrong. Roger's teeth flashed white against his red face. Watch me. Wait a minute, Veronica said. Do you think David killed Officer Stanton? To be honest, I do. Maybe not directly, but I believe he went off the deep end or mouthed off to Big's associate or did something stupid and got Officer Stanton killed. That makes him just as guilty as the one pulling the trigger. That's ridiculous, Ridley snarled. They know who pulled the trigger. She was arrested this morning. David had nothing to do with it. Do you know that for sure? Roger asked. He was there. Why was he there? And what in blue blazes was that costumed freak doing there? She had a gun. Who was she planning on shooting? Veronica crossed her arms over her chest. Sounds to me like you don't have all the facts. You know what happens when you assume. One more word from you, he said, and I'll suspend you as well. Now... Veronica motioned behind Ridley to their receptionist, who was heading toward them in a full run down the hallway, her heels clapping frantically against the floor. Mr. Belmont, Mr. Belmont! Roger sighed. What do you want, Alice? I'm in the middle of something right now. She stopped in front of Roger, huffing and puffing. There's someone... Well, spit it out! She took a deep breath, straightened herself out, and smoothed out her black business suit. There's someone here to see the project. No visitors right now. Tell them to get lost. She shook her head. Sir, you don't want to refuse him. Why not? Veronica couldn't hide her smile when she saw the president of Anera strolling down the hallway, flanked by two of his Secret Service agents. The man's face was full of lines and pits, probably from adventures too old to discuss, and his charcoal hair had been cut short and lacked any of the gray Veronica thought it should have for a man in his 50s. President Anderson nodded to Roger as he approached the group in the hallway. Mr. Belmont? He nodded and smiled at Veronica. Miss Amaru, a pleasure to see you as always. Veronica blushed and shook the man's hand. The pleasure is all mine as usual, Mr. President. President Anderson crossed his arms behind his back. What seems to be going on here, Roger? I left a message on your voicemail 3 hours ago asking when would be a good time to swing by, and you haven't called me back. Well, I've had a situation here that I've had to take care of, sir. Please, Roger, tell me what is more important right now than taking a personal call from the president of an era. I don't call you to chit-chat. I call you because I have urgent matters to discuss, particularly the incident at the Rusted Spigot. Roger said nothing. President Anderson turned to Ridley. Where's David? Veronica motioned to the office behind her. Resting. Well, let him rest, President Anderson said. Don't worry, Mr. President, Roger replied. When he wakes up, I'll make sure he's suspended until this whole investigation into the incident at the Rusted Spigot is finished. Suspended? Why would you suspend David Corbin? He was involved. He was there. President Anderson shook his head. No, he's not to be suspended. He didn't fire the shot that killed Officer Stanton. Roger fumed. Now, the president said, do we know where the costume vigilante went? Ridley shrugged. Nobody can find her, sir. Any leads? Ridley shook her head. No, she vanished from the restaurant after the shooting and nobody has seen her since. Interesting. Roger motioned toward David's office. Sir, David needs to be reprimanded. He's out of control. Nobody told him to go to the Rusted Spigot. David can go wherever he wants, Roger. He's not a slave to this establishment. Quite the contrary, he's the reason you have a job. Veronica couldn't help but smirk. Roger seethed. David has been acting like a rogue, doing whatever he wants, whenever he wants. I've been trying to introduce more efficient means of apprehending Mr. Biggs' associates, but David insists on doing things his way. I don't think... President Anderson lifted his hand in front of Roger's face. Stop. What? I've heard enough out of you, the president said. Right now, David is not under investigation for anything. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Better yet, he might have been in the wrong place at the right time. He may have been Officer Stanton's only chance. Whether David failed or not is not cause for him to be reprimanded. That is too much to put on one person's shoulders. The assailant, Vicky Treven, will be questioned. Will offer to skip the death sentence in exchange for information on Mr. Biggs' network. She probably won't go for it, though. I've read her file, and she's been in and out of the court system for years now. She's a psychopath with very strong loyalties to Mr. Big. She won't give him up. Not easily. Probably never. With all due respect, Mr. President, I didn't actually come here to discuss the incident at the Rusted Spigot, President Anderson said. There is a more urgent matter that I learned of through my own channels. A very dangerous weapon was stolen from Mr. Big recently. That weapon is about to be sold to the highest bidder, which at the moment is a member of the Corlex gang. He turned to Ridley. Because of your background, Ridley, I am going to put you completely in charge of this next assignment. You can't... Roger shoved his way between President Anderson and Ridley. The two Secret Service agents stepped forward, forcing Roger back. I can, President Anderson said. I just did. Ridley is in charge of this assignment. Your job, Roger, is to remove any red tape she comes across. President Anderson lifted his arm, motioning for the Secret Service agent behind him. The man lifted a folder from beneath his jacket and handed it to the president, who handed it to Ridley. Everything you need to know is in here. We need to outbid everyone for that weapon and make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. I leave this assignment to your judgment, with one condition. David and Veronica must be our buyers. Veronica felt her heart flutter, and she scolded herself for it. She had worked with David many, many times before this. There was no reason to suddenly feel like a giddy schoolgirl. President Anderson turned to Veronica, a warm smile on his face. This assignment is extremely important, but I want to make sure David is rested before he steps into it. Wake him in a couple of hours, not before. Veronica nodded. Sure, I can do that. Stay in the lines, Roger, or I'll fire you. This place doesn't need your attitude, but it does need the laser blades. I'll be keeping my eye on them, and on you. Roger's cheeks flared in a crimson wash. Yes, sir. President Anderson left the building. Roger glared at Veronica, then Ridley, before tromping down the hallway. That was entertaining, Veronica said. Ridley nodded as she opened the folder President Anderson had given her. Veronica leaned against the wall near David's office door and wondered what their assignment held in store for them. Interesting, Ridley remarked. What? Well, President Anderson wants you and David to work this assignment together. Yeah, he just said that. You both are going to be posing as a married couple. Thank you for listening to the LZR Project. If you are interested in reading more of David's Expired Reality series, please check out the author's webpage at davidnalderman.com.